I remember the first time my dad introduced me to the word squash. I thought at first he was talking about a vegetable that we ate. I never once thought it would be a game that I would once love. My father introduced me to squash when I was younger than 10. When I first met him, he played throughout Nigeria, around any place that he was in the Navy or in his clubs around the house that he lived. He was always playing squash. So squash to him was his life. He thought golf was was a horrible sport because there's no exercise. Now he plays it every day. But today I want to talk about squash, what squash means to me, and to hopefully introduce you to the sport so that you might find it a bit interesting, so that you might want to try it out. This is my latest purchase, which is a squash racket that it's a bit larger. I could have brought in some other ones, but the one that my dad played with was wood, and the head of it was about half or a third of the size of this. So over time and technology, the weight of this has changed significantly. I remember playing with a professor at one of the biomedical research centers I worked, and he had one of the latest ones, and I had my dad's old one. And he kicked my butt. I mean, every little hook, every little angle, what you can do with your wrist, the power in your wrist it's not very strong. But with the light racket and the right angle and the right timing, it'd be a very powerful stroke. And he was able to get and reach balls I couldn't even touch because of his racket and the technology within the racket. And so it encouraged me to save some money and get the next racket. So I come to KL with my exciting new racket that I thought was exciting, about 10 years old. And I go into these courts and the same thing happens. These guys are whacking the ball left and right. How do they get into these things? So I find out that they have a K115. So the number is the grams. So this thing weighs 115 grams. There's some guys that have 110. There's obviously ones lighter than that. And so as you get lighter, they become more expensive. But at the end of the day, having a light racket with the right amount of pressure allows you to hit this ball, which I didn't bring, but it doesn't bounce. If you were to throw it on the ground as hard as you possibly could, it might reach about yay high. There's two types of balls, a soft one and a hard one. Most people play with the soft one. But the ball itself, when you hit it against that wall, you think it's going to bounce back and forth like in racquetball. But it barely just hits the wall and it falls down. It takes an enormous amount of energy to get that ball to reach the other side. And when you're in a court, you have two people, sit close, it's about half the size of this room, and you're both with rackets. Safety is very important. Wearing goggles for some, and wearing, some people wear gloves for the racket to keep a good grip, and having very good shoes that keep the grip on the ground when you're running around. So when you're in a room swinging the racket back and forth, two things can happen, which I've had happen to me. Obviously, Dave Woodman had happen. So usually, you get hit by the other person, you don't hit yourself. But at the end of the day, you got to watch out for the balls. The guy hitting the ball, getting hit by the ball, or getting hit by a racket, or hitting somebody with a racket. But at the end of the day, for me, squash has been my sport that I've always been drawn to. It's been one that I have been blessed with some form of talent versus tennis and these other racket sports. I've really found a lot of enjoyment in getting in the room with a guy, whether they know how to play or they don't, but it's a game where you're challenging yourself to take and playing the game. So hopefully I've shared a little bit about why I love squash, introduced you to the sport, to kind of the challenges and how technology has helped me perform in the sport. And hopefully also downstairs, we're on 6 now, over there in the corner, we have 2 squash courts, so it's very, very convenient to play squash. So if you're ever up for the game, just let me know. I've got an extra squash racket. I'll let you play with this one. I'll play with the other one. And